thank you very much for taking the time to undertake this interview. I'm wondering if we can start with the elevator pitch for Makara Mining. Tell us all about the company and why they're a great investment.
Okay. Makara Mining Corporation is focused on the Dawson Range of the Yukon. It's not well known, but it is an rapidly emerging porphyry copper belt. And there's been a lot of activities. One major deposit has been Rio Tinto has taken a percentage of the project and advancing it quite fast toward production. There hasn't been a production decision yet, but it's a world-class deposit, and it's relatively close to our property. With that project going ahead, the whole regional play will accelerate fast, and we're very well positioned. These are world-class porphyry copper gold deposits. The value probably in excess of $100 billion for a big porphyry. It'll be the most major mine ever built in the Yukon. These things are company building type deposits. They have a long lifetime, and copper and gold is what the world really wants right now. And as we electrify more, and security from economic reasons of a good gold backing. And gold is a byproduct in this type of copper mining, and quite substantial. We have a very good land position adjacent to the Western Copper and Gold Rio Tinto Casino deposit. The structural controls to these type of mineral deposits are very complex usually, but we think we have a very good handle on that structural control, and that's guided our staking of claims and acquisition of land. Typically, porphyry copper deposits don't occur by themselves. They occur along a belt, a structural corridor, and the belts are often 20, 30 kilometers long or longer. And you can have 4 or 5, maybe 6 deposits in that belt. And so we think Casino is a very good example of this type of deposit, but there has to be other deposits found. These are major structural systems, and there's lots of room for other deposits to form. And sometimes the ones that are more buried can often be higher grade.
Could you tell us a little bit more in detail about the properties that Makara Mining is working on?
We have 3 groups. They're contiguous in a north-south direction. The initial property was Rude Creek, and then we acquired the Idaho property immediately to the north. It's separated by the two claim groups are separated by the road access. The resource road being built by the government of Canada and the Yukon government will pass between the 2 properties, and so there's a 500 meters wide strip that's sort of reserved for that road location. And other than that, though, the properties are contiguous. And to the south, we've staked the wind property, and totally we have about 86 square kilometers staked now, and that it covers about 15 kilometers of this. We think the strike length of what probably should be the primary structural control to mineralization in the area. There's quite a bit of work to be done in this structural analysis, and that's one of the things we'll work on this year more. We're going to hire some very good consultants, maybe not this year but next year, and so that's the key to the property. So these are very major deposits. The OT deposit is just starting to go into real full production from the underground, is probably worth in excess of $200 billion. And the build on that mine to build anything was $16 billion. I think they're still spending, and the estimate to build a Casino mine is about $3 billion. So building a road in and a big workforce, and it'll have its own airport built soon. So these are very major economic activities, and having the key claims in the area adjacent to the new road will be a very good situation for Makara shareholders and the company.
You touched on it ever so slightly, but I'm wondering if you could tell us what differentiates you from other juniors in the sector.
I think the big difference is a lot of people have acquired land, but they don't have the structural setting. And if you're not on the structure, I think the odds of coming up with a discovery of a large porphyry copper system are much less. You may be okay on the shallow gold vein systems. Sometimes these deposits, this type of deposits, occur adjacent to major porphyries, and sometimes though the vein systems are related to something at a great depth that's that of no other interest other than the gold mining is only economic if it's up near the surface, and then there's deposits in the area like the coffee and that. I think there are 2.5 million ounces of gold that can be mined by open pit.
And Grant, sorry, I just want to interject here. Just maybe if you want to talk a little bit about your experience as well with these copper gold porphyry supergiant systems.
Yes, I went out for the Ivanhoe group into Mongolia in 2001, and there was an initial discovery there. It was at that time they thought maybe 200 million tons. Today we know it's probably maybe closer to 4 or 5 billion tons, and it's after several good years of work by Ivanhoe, the Rio Tinto group acquired the deposit, and they've put the open pit potential into production, and it's done quite well. And I think they just announced this week that the first big blast that'll access ore underground was done this week, and the underground ore has a grade that's 2.5 times the open pit grade, and so there'll be a massive increase in copper production and also in the total number of tons mined a day.
Excellent. And now, so you're saying that you recognized the structural control before, and you're seeing similarities in a much more safer geopolitical region. Is that correct?
And another major had the property before Ivanhoe, and their work was concentrated so much on just one deposit, and not a lot of work had been done on the structural control. And one of the things Ivanhoe worked on, primarily through geophysics, was big regional geophysical programs that very quickly defined the structural controls to the mineralization. The initial thinking by the previous owner and the early days for Ivanhoe was that the deposit was likely more east-west orientated. The structural work showed that it was north 13 east is the trend of the mineralization. And once that was realized and worked on, we quickly started to see how everything was lining up. Other zones of mineralization that were given separate names and stuff realized were just part of one big system. And eventually the strike length was 16 kilometers, and there was 5 or 6 separate deposits along that, but they were probably all connected at depth. And that the initial open pit areas, they had grades of 0.6, 0.7 copper, 0.3 gram gold. But some of the underground holes, deeper holes along the structural corridor, there was stuff as well quite deep by that time. Some of it was under 600 meters of cover on that. But those holes entered mineralization over several hundreds of meters of width that had grades of 2, 3, 4% copper and well over a gram gold.
Excellent.
So the economics were dramatically different, and and that's why the underground is just getting started. It was a massive investment to develop it. And
of course. And Greg, sorry, can you just tell me a little bit more about this resource gateway project that I keep hearing in the Yukon?
Well, the government of Canada and the Yukon, I think, have realized the significance of these very large world-class porphyries. And so they think a road into the area would accelerate exploration, and they should increase the number of discoveries. It'll also allow the small gold deposits to be put into production, and it'll certainly encourage the owners of Casino to pursue financing further and get that into production. You know, when you're going to do a $3 billion build of a mine, you can imagine the amount of material that'll be brought in. I saw that kind of material trucked across the Gobi Desert when in the 14 years or so, 16 years I was involved with Ivanhoe in Mongolia. And so the same thing is all this is going to come in, it'll come up to Carmax and then go on the resource road up to Casino. And it'll be nonstop truck traffic on that road pretty much for in the development stage particularly, and a workforce of probably a couple thousand people maybe involved to build the mine, and then a stable workforce of maybe 800, and then an airstrip for a fly-in, fly-out operation. The airstrip will probably be 2,000 meters or something like that. It'll be probably a hard surface airstrip with a little airport, and it'll just open the area up for other resource efforts, and all the exploration companies in the area close to the road and the airport will find that their economics have dramatically improved instead of having to use very expensive helicopter operations.
No, that's great to hear. And I hear that construction is already underway as well. And they've already signed all the treaties, and it's very socially safe region as well. All the First Nations have been on board, correct?
Yes, I think this is going to be I think there was construction last year, but I think this year will be the first year of really major construction. And it's not a lot of, it's about 100 kilometers of road to get it up to our area. And the road has to pass through our property on the way to Casino. Casino is just another 10 kilometers west of us.
It sounds like there's a lot happening in the region that is promising for Makara. I'm wondering, looking forward to the next 12 months, 2022 and maybe the start of next year, 2023 as well, what are some catalysts that people can get excited for in the near-term future?
I think the biggest one will be the road, and with the road be more work, and then they're going to see a better geological understanding of the whole belt. And so the people holding land adjacent to or in the area of the Casino deposit will find their properties are increased in value a lot. They'll be able to attract more money, and better geologists or senior consultants coming in to help out guys with years of experience on the exploration of these will be in the area more. And so it's going to be a win-win for the Yukon and the companies and investors. The other thing, I think the world situation is going to constantly improve the price of copper and gold, and that's what these mines will produce. The Casino has inferred resources of close to 20 million ounces of gold and billions of pounds of copper. I forget the exact figure, but those are the real catalysts, the world situation, and this is what the world wants, and they want a long life mine. Casino, just 3 years ago, people were talking that Casino had a 30, 40, 20-year mine life. And then a year ago, they're talking 40, 50, and now they're talking maybe 80, 90-year mine life. There's a lot more reserves that'll be found as you drill for them. So these are good things for investors, and you're buying something that's not going to be finished in 2 years or 3 years, and it's a long-term company-making type of economic situation.
So on that on that front, I'm wondering, what do you think that investors should be looking for when doing due diligence on an exploration company?
They should look at the track record of the company doing the exploration. Have they been involved in major copper porphyry exploration and development projects before? Do they understand the significance of copper and gold in the world economic system right now? These are really critical things.
If I might also, just to summarize the importance of the differentiators between, the junior mining space is very crowded these days. So you have to see, what separates you from the rest. I think we have all the tools, especially with Grant's experience, that cannot be replicated. As far as the regional play, we have the recognition from the federal and provincial governments. They see the potential of where we have our property. So the invested, I think it was close to the resource gateway project was about $460 $68 million for the final construction bill. We have all of our permitting in place, especially for the First Nations people. We have the green light from them to use their roads, as well as the major international mining company recognition to companies like Rio Tinto. They've increased a stake in our neighboring property, and they're looking for exploration initiatives. So we kind of have all the pieces of the puzzle right now, and now is a good opportunity for us to see in the near future.
The other thing I think that I can't emphasize enough is investors have to look at how well the juniors doing their work. Do they understand, structural geology and the absolute importance of the structural control to mineralization in porphyry copper deposits, and are they focused on these structures? Has that guided their exploration effort and land acquisition? These are the keys, and I think if you look at Makara, you'll see the structural controls there, and we've had very good PhD structural geologists working on the property already, and we need to get some more and expand the work of the others who were up there, that getting them working together. But there's a lot of very good ideas and of these people, and we can see basically everything we want to see. We're seeing it. We just need to do deeper drilling and more geology and geochemistry and things like that.
To close out, Grant, you mentioned a few kind of global factors that might be affecting the price of gold and copper in the kind of near to midterm future. But I'm wondering, beyond just those kind of global market conditions, how can a junior exploration company appeal to a broader range of retail investors who may have a certain stigma around mining, or might be too risk averse to invest in such a sector? What can junior explorers do to appeal to those retail investors?
I think one of the things is to be in a mine-friendly environment like the Yukon. I don't think there's any place in the world as friendly to mining as the Yukon. And also, everyone's got to really look at why is Rio Tinto there? They've had big operations at Resolution, and they are very aware of the pebble deposits. It doesn't look like these are going to make it into production for environmental reasons. And also, they're involved in Chile, but they're pumping water uphill a long way, and they're desalinating seawater and pumping it up a hill. The locals are very upset about the lack of groundwater in the areas of the mine now. These are constant costs for Rio Tinto, and also it's an economic risk, and you're seeing more and more friction in the Peru and Chile against mining, and the mines there have pretty much a declining grade too, and yet they having to build bigger and bigger desalinating plants and pumping it about 140 kilometers up into the Andes. You come to the Yukon, there's abundant water everywhere. The Yukon River, one of the biggest rivers in North America, is adjacent to the properties. And there's a lot of snowfall and rain in the area, so there's constant replenishment of water. The technology today has been advanced incredibly, so the First Nations people are quite comfortable, I think, with the mining activity in their areas, and Rio Tinto is probably one of the best examples in the world of an extremely environmentally cognizant company that really wants to do best practice. I work with them in a certain extent in Mongolia, and they always did everything first class. Everything was done to the highest world standard, even, they're out in a remote area of Mongolia. So you can see that, when first started in Mongolia, there was a few expats and maybe 4 or 5 times as many Mongolians. And now there's something like 10,000 Mongolians on site pretty much regularly, and the project is probably 95% run by Mongolians. I've watched the jobs being created and watched the expansion of the education systems in Mongolia to to train people to the earth for earth sciences, and that you go on the any of the employment things in that you can see Mongolians at, front and center on world-class economic mining activity type programs, and they're working around the world now. So the impact for the local community is tremendous. There'll be tremendous jobs created for First Nations people.
Mhm.
Some of
And I
them
think
don't-
just going back to the connection to the retail investors as well, we're going to be looking towards educating the investors as well as why is this region a good play? Why are we the ones that have the experience and the differentiators to kind of we have all the tools, so all we need to do is keep furthering our exploration initiatives.